Well, this is fractions part 3, and in part 3 we're going to learn how to reduce fractions to a lower name. Sometimes it's important in working with fractions that we reduce it to its lower name. We don't change the value, but we just change the name of it. Let me give you an example. Here we have 25 cents. Well, 25 cents is really 25 pennies out of $1. So 25 cents is 25 over 100 because there are 100 pennies in the whole and we're talking about 25 of them. 25. Well, we also know that in 25 cents there are 5 nickels or 5 5-cent pieces. So there are 20 nickels in $1 and there are 5 nickels in 25 cents. That may not be the best example. Here may be even a better example. We refer to 25 cents as 1/4. 1/4. So 25 cents is 1/4 of a dollar. The dollar has 4 quarters. 25 cents is 1/4 of a dollar. So 1/4 is renaming this fraction 25 hundredths in a smaller name, 1/4. They're exactly the same. This is 25 pennies, and 1/4 of a dollar is 25 pennies also. So we're going to look at the process of renaming a fraction into its smaller name. Okay, before we go into our renaming fractions, really quick review. Fraction has 3 parts: a numerator, a top part, a denominator, which begins with the letter D, so I remember it as down, as it being the down one, and a division line, which means divided by. This means 6 divided by 7. The bottom part of a fraction tells us how many pieces there are in one whole. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces in the whole. The top part, how many pieces we're interested in using. So that's 6/7. Then quickly we talked about types of fractions. Proper fractions. The top, the numerator, smaller than the bottom denominator. Proper fractions are always less than 1 whole. We have improper fractions. Top bigger than the bottom. Top bigger than the bottom, always more than 1 whole, always greater than 1 whole. And then we had mixed numbers, which is a whole number and a proper fraction. And then we had the one case where the numerator and denominator of a fraction are exactly the same, and we know that that is equal to the number 1. Okay, that's it for the review. Now on to renaming fractions in their lower name. Okay, here we go. Reducing fractions or renaming fractions means the same thing. Let's take the fraction 15/20. And we want to rename this in its lower name. Well, here's the question we have to ask ourselves. What number other than the number 1, because we never use the number 1, what number will go evenly into 15 and the same number goes evenly into 20? Okay, so one way we could attack this is just by starting at the lowest number. We never use the number 1, so we can look at 2. Well, 2 does not go evenly into 15. It does go evenly into 20, but it doesn't go evenly into 15, so we can't use 2. 3. Well, 3 will go evenly into 15. 3 will go into 15 5 times, but 3 will not go evenly into 20. Well, the number 4, well, 4 will go evenly into 20, but certainly won't go, it goes into 25 times, but it won't go evenly into 15. So the number 5, well, yes, 5 goes evenly into 15, and 5 goes evenly into 20. So we'll use the number 5. So we divide then the numerator and the denominator by that number, by 5. 5 goes into 15 3 times. 5 divided into 20 goes 4 times. So now we have renamed the fraction 15/20ths, and its smallest name is 3/4. By the way, 3/4 of $1 million and 15/20ths of $1 million are exactly the same amount of money. It's just that we have put this fraction into a lower name. The reason we need to learn this skill, by the way, is sometimes in working with fractions, it's much easier to work with numbers that are smaller rather than numbers that are larger. Let's look at the fraction 8/12. We want to rename it in its lowest name. So we're looking for a number that will go evenly into 8, and that same number will go evenly into 12. And we never use the number 1. Okay, so let's start with the number 2. Well, 2 goes evenly into 8, and 2 goes evenly into 12. So let's try the number 2. So we divide 8 by the number 2, and we divide 12 by the number 2. 2 goes into 8 4 times. 2 goes into 12 6 times. Well, now we have renamed or reduced 8/12 to 4/6. Now we have to ask ourselves a question. Is there still a number that will go evenly into 4 and the same number will go evenly into 6? And we never use 1. Well, 2 will go evenly into 4 and 2 will go evenly into 6. So we have to divide this by 2 again and divide by 2. 2 divided into 4 goes 2 times. 2 divided into 6 goes 3 times. So we have now renamed the fraction 8/12, and its smallest name is 2/3. Now I want to take a look at this fraction again, because I did this on purpose. Okay, now, in reducing this fraction, we're asking ourselves, is there a number that goes evenly into 8 and goes evenly into 12? And we said 2. And we were correct, 2 does go evenly into. But if you want to make your steps easier, we're looking for the largest number that goes evenly into 8 and goes evenly into 12. Well, 2 is certainly a number that goes evenly into 8 and evenly into 12, but is there a larger number than 2 that will go evenly into 8 and evenly into 12? Well, let's see. We know 2 goes evenly. What about 3? Well, 3 goes evenly into 12. It'll go into 12 4 times, but 3 does not go evenly into 8. What about the number 4? 4 goes evenly into 8, and 4 goes evenly into 12, so we use the number 4. We divide by 4, and we divide by 4. Now, 4 goes into 8 2 times. 4 goes into 12 3 times. So you'll see that we got exactly the same answer, but by choosing the largest number that goes into both of our numbers, we eliminated a step. We save ourselves a step. So when you're thinking about numbers that go evenly into the fraction, look for the largest number that will go evenly into both of those. Let's take the case of a fraction like 20/30ths, where the last two numbers are zeros. Well, a very easy way of doing this kind of a fraction is you can just cross the zeros out, because the zeros mean zero anyway. And now you automatically have 2/3. Here's why. If I'm looking for the largest number that goes into 20 and 30, well, I could say 2 goes into 20, will go 10 times, 2 goes into 30, 15 times, but that's not the largest number that goes into both of them. 5 will go into 20 4 times, 5 will go into 36 times, but that's not the largest number that will go into both of them. 10 is the largest number that goes into both of them. 10, if I divide by 10, and if I divide by 10, 10 goes into 20 2 times, 10 goes into 30 3 times. So dividing by 10 is the same as just crossing out the zero. So if you have a fraction that ends with 2 zeros, you can just cross those 2 zeros out, and then the fraction is reduced. And then you have it's in its lowest name. But then you have to say to yourself, well, is there any number here? Is there any number that will go evenly into 2 and evenly into 3 other than the number 1? No, there is none that will go evenly into both of those. So now that fraction is in its lowest name. Let's take this fraction, 40/100ths. Well, we have zeros, so we know we can cross out the zeros, and we have 4/10. Now we have to say to ourselves, okay, we have 4/10, but is this its lowest name? Is there a number that will go evenly into 4, and the same number will go evenly into 10, other than the number 1, we don't use 1. And we say, well, yes, 2. Well, then we divide by 2, divide by 2. 2 goes into 4 2 times, 2 goes into 10 5 times. Any number that goes evenly into both of these? No. Well, then this 40/100ths, its lowest name, is 2/5.